Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Wicked. Like I said in my other videos, this is going to be a fairly short video because of the lack of information I have. Also, there's not very many photos in this case. I have like 2 or 3, I think. So I apologize, but there's just not a whole lot. But I still wanted to tell you guys about Cassandra and her story. That being said, the links that I was able to use, because that's all I was able to find, will be linked down below, and I highly suggest that you go and do your own research. Also, there will be a link to a Google suggestions form if you have anything or any case you'd like me to talk about, whether it's for Wicked or my other podcast, Sinister. And speaking of Sinister, Sinister is another podcast I have here on YouTube, where I cover child cases and minority cases and all of that good stuff. So if any of that interests you, I highly suggest you go give that a look-see. But other than that, let's go ahead and get into this video. So, I apologize for the short video, but... So Cassandra was 19 years old when she went missing in June of 1985. She lived in an apartment at the 2700 Grand Avenue Street in Minneapolis near Whittier Park. She was last heard from when she called a friend to confirm that she would be attending her goddaughter's birthday party. But she never showed up to the party, and she was not seen or heard from again. In May 2014, an off-duty Lake County Sheriff's Office deputy was training his dog in a remote, heavily wooded area in Gooseberry Falls State Park when he discovered the skeletal remains of a Minneapolis woman who would be identified as Cassandra, who had been missing for over 30 years. Her remains were identified through advanced DNA technology that was unavailable at the time of her disappearance. So DNA was extracted from the skull, and the DNA was linked to a sample provided in late 2013 by her sister. In 2013, the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension began asking family members of long missing Minnesotans to submit DNA samples. So, extremely lucky, honestly, that this family did that, and her body ended up being found a year later. The remains were sent to the St. Louis County Medical Examiner's Office, and a forensic anthropologist analyzed the skull, determining that she suffered from blunt force trauma injuries. During a news conference in 2015, officials released a photograph of Cassandra with a man whose identity is unknown. Investigators believed the man had been living with her, and they had hoped to question him. So, information from tips led them to identify the man as Donald McSwain, and it was confirmed that he was living with her at the time of her disappearance, but he was also dead by this time. Tips also led to the identity of a friend who worked with Cassandra, who was working as an exotic dancer at the time, which was also verified. That being said, it's unclear if her job played a role in her death. Investigators tracked down her friend and found that she had also died. They believe that she was killed elsewhere and dumped in the park. And that's all I have for you on Cassandra. I do have a phone number, so if anybody remembers this case, remembers Cassandra, or you know somebody who does, you're urged to contact the Lake County Police Department at 218-834-8385. Again, that phone number is 218-834-8385. So, we know that she was living with this man named Donald, but we don't know if he had anything to do with her death. And we know that she was working as an exotic dancer at the time, but we don't know if that played a role in her death. So there's quite a lot of questions, quite a lot of unknowns, and it kind of feels like everybody who could provide these answers are dead. Donald's dead, the friend is dead who was never named. We just genuinely have no information about the case of Cassandra. Who did this to her? Why was this man that was living with her? Was he her boyfriend? Was he just a roommate? Was he a friend? Or was it someone else entirely? Maybe someone from her job that was maybe obsessed with her or something like that. We have no idea, but if DNA was able to solve her death, maybe there are some sort of DNAs technology that could solve who did this to her. Maybe because we don't know what other evidence they have. If they had her remains, maybe there was stuff around her at the time that they might have collected, and maybe DNA could still be on that. I don't know. All I know is that her skeletal remains were found. It's probably unlikely that there was anything else, but, wishful thinking. But that is all I have. I don't know if any other advancements have been made, if they ever actually came out and said that they think Donald McSwain had anything to do with it. We just know that, he lived with her, and that's all we know. And I want to hope that these questions are going to be answered, but it kind of feels like it won't, just because everybody who can help is no longer with us. But that being said, if anybody knows anything that could help break this case open, please go to that phone number that I read off to you. Unfortunately, this is all we know about Cassandra. We don't even really have any information about who she was as a person, what she liked. We just know that she worked as an exotic dancer, and that unfortunately her life was taken from her. And it took 30 years for her to even be identified, or be found, I mean. But with that being said, let me know your thoughts down below. Do you think it was Donald? Do you think it was her job that played a role? Let me know your thoughts down below, but please be respectful. And with that being said, I will see you guys very soon. Thank you for listening to Cassandra's story. Bye, guys.